Okay, yes. The second item I had is typically, annually, I come, well, since I've only been here a year, I've come once before you with the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. This year, however, the city was due to do, in addition to the annual action plan for fiscal, or program year 2024, we were also due to do the city's 5-year consolidated plan and analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. And these are documents that all entitlement communities are required to produce according to the regulations of HUD in order to continue to be eligible for our CDBG funds. So we did have a consultant group, Urban Design Ventures, that assisted us with this year. And I don't know, do you want to go ahead and come forward, or?
Sure.
Sure. In case there's questions. Mr. John Hagland is with us from Urban Design Ventures. And the con plan and AI that have been out for public comment, those were generated after weeks of consultation with various stakeholder groups and input from citizen surveys, and also reviews of statistical data. These plans have been on display since March 1st, and this time we've gone through our required citizen participation plan in regard to these plans. And incorporated within the 5-year con plan is also the 2024 annual action plan for our allotment for this year. And this year the allocation was $346,673, and the project funding breakdown that was decided on by administration is $69,333 to the city for general administration, and then splitting the remaining funds, which would be $138,670 to Habitat of Humanity for Wycomico County, and that's for a critical home repairs program. And then the other $138,670 to go to Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services to support their owner-occupied rehabilitation program. So both of those nonprofit entities would be subrecipients under the fiscal year 2024 plan. So tonight I'm requesting the council's approval for the con plan, the AI, and the 2024 annual action plan to HUD, and as well as authorizing the mayor to sign the related certification forms that need to be submitted with the plans.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. If you want to, I guess, briefly, or go over your, your work you did, and just surmise your 300 and so odd pages that you.
Yeah.
I did read over it, and again, a lot of the things that people were discussing here, you can see those in the needs assessments and those things. So if you want to go over that, you can.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
yes.
So for both plans are available. Just wanted to kind of go back in time a little bit. This is a process that needs to be done every 5 years. I work with Urban Design Ventures. We did this the previous 5 years and then the 5 years before that. So familiar with the city, familiar with what the needs are, so we did an update and took a look at that. Within both of the plans, they're available online. They were on display. Like we're saying, we're asking for these to be approved to be submitted to HUD as a requirement to receive CDBG funding every year. Really, we summarized this into housing needs, homeless needs, special needs, community development needs, economic development needs, and planning needs. Within each of those needs, there are goals that are listed under each of those. In addition to the consolidated plan, which is handling what your CDBG funds are, there's also the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. By receiving CDBG funds, you make a commitment to affirmatively further fair housing. A portion of that is to analyze what are the impediments to fair housing within the city. Then you would take the move to create goals to address what those impediments are. And lastly, HUD asks that you report each year with your annual action plan, which Joan has done through the CAPER, what accomplishments have been done with that. So this plan, we call it that. I would say it's more of an application to HUD. I wish I could say that this was a little bit more user-friendly, that we had a little more opportunity to kind of tailor it to your needs, but unfortunately, it's a long-form question and answer with limited text box responses. And unfortunately, the money is from HUD, so we have to follow by their rules with that. But I do think there's a lot of really great things in here. As people are bringing up, affordable housing, of course, is an issue. I think my position for you all is to provide you with statistical data, with some knowledge about what other communities are doing out there, but I think it really gets down to, council, administration, citizens, residents, to identify and define what is the direction. Like Joellen said, there's only $350,000. Realistically, you could build one house with that. It's not a lot of money. I think this is money that you have to use to complement for other pieces, as well as just kind of creating, something to stack with other forms of funding that you use. Very much like the park project that's coming from DCNR, the Maryland, is it DCNR? DNR, sorry. I'm from Pittsburgh. Sorry. So we're using a portion of CDBG to make that project possible. I think that's probably your best bet to take a look at that. Again, there's a lot of needs that are out there. Prioritizing them is important. Coming together and figuring out what is the best use is really to you all to decide with that.
Thank you. Council, you have any questions or comments?
I was impressed with all 137 pages.
Thank you.
And it's user-friendly. I found it user-friendly.
Thank you for that.
No questions.
And you said this will be on display. It was on display and it was in our packet, but will citizens have access to this?
It's on our website.
No,
It's on the city's website under the HCDD page, Housing
Perfect.
Community
That's all I
Development.
wanted to know.
So there's a
I
section
have it
with,
saved, but I want to make sure that
Yeah.
citizens can.
yeah.
Good. Okay. I know we do have at least one public comment from Mr. Robert Taylor.
Good evening. 50-year-plus resident of the city. This is the kind of governmental gobbledygook that really just blows my mind. I've been involved in development for about 50 years as an attorney, and at one time, we didn't have this kind of stuff we had to put up with. I'm going to just, because I only have a few minutes, address the affordable housing part of it. The documents that the gentleman produced for a fee have a lot of ambiguous things about the zoning code in it. We are right now in the midst of having to do our comprehensive plan, having to deal with TIF proposals, having to deal with the Horizon program. That has to be reviewed by the end of this month. We have people that want pilot agreements. All this needs to be condensed and done in one fell swoop, and not piecemeal, as this would suggest. Affordable housing, it's very simple. You can do like Annapolis does. If you want to do a subdivision development in Annapolis, you have to provide a certain amount of affordable housing. We can do that overnight if we want to. On our TIF agreements that they want for the old Salisbury Mall, we can put in an affordable housing component to that. It's easy to do. We don't need 300 pages of gobbledygook to do it. And, I know that HUD requires this, and I guess the cottage industry that this gentleman is part of and makes his living on, you have to do that. That's the way it is these days. But frankly, if we want to solve the affordable housing problem, we can do it in 30 to 60 days, right here. And I can help you if you want me to. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, other cities and municipalities and states have legislation that require developers to enact affordable housing. So that's something that's on my horizon. But thank you, Mr. Taylor, for underscoring that. So we'll definitely look into that. Any other questions or comments from council? And Mr. Kitzrow, any online?
I don't have anything for
Okay.
this topic.
Council, do we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bynum, Ms. Bynum, for your work. We'll move on to you for the shopping cart ordinance.
Yes. Good afternoon again, evening now, I guess, supper time. So as we discussed back on March 12th, which was brought to stem from a meeting I had with Councilwoman DeShiel, and this has come up a couple of times in the past. So this is creating a program and essentially to handle abandoned shopping carts around the city. It does become, it has, as we stated before, become an issue where even sometimes we're not able to dispose of them in certain things and they become a blight. So what this legislation does, some of the key points in it, we are, requiring that businesses required to post cart removal warning signs, basically stating what the city, you're not allowed to take them off the premises. Businesses we're requiring them to identify their shopping carts either by branding or a lot of them put nameplates on them. A cart owner, a business, may provide a letter for a customer that uses the cart off premises with a return of 72 hours. Code compliance officers will immediately abate abandoned shopping carts, and how we're going to do this is they will abate them, and then we have a place that we have a storage shed, and we have our lawnmower and everything is fenced in on a specific lot. We will store them there. When we get 10 for a business, we will then take them back to the business with a fine of $25 per cart. It's similar to what Fruitland does. It's similar to what some other municipalities do around the state. Some of them have, much more in-depth programs. But the idea is that this will encourage businesses to, like if you go into Aldi's, they have a return thing where you put in a quarter, you get your quarter back. Acme, which is getting ready to be owned by Kroger, they are implementing a geo-fencing mechanism on the shopping carts that you can't take them off the property. And then Family Dollar and some of the other smaller stores have the big poles that you just can't roll out the door. So there are, stores that are already implementing that. But we're hoping that this will encourage them to become more proactive in some programs like that. So any questions?
Council? No, I think this is what, when we discussed it at work session or before, when you came in and brought it to us and the comments and questions were addressed. So we hope that this, provides some relief and gives you all a little bit solidity to go to the business owner and to retrieve those funds or what have you. So, good. Council, we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
Thank you.
Yes. You are retired now. All right, we'll move on to the Village at Tony Tank speed limit ordinance. We have Mr. Wilson here.
Yeah, he's out.
Okay. Hello.
And Rachel's going to be joining him, I think.
All right. And if you all could just state your names and your position just so that people know who's talking.
Hi, Rachel Manning, Community Relations Manager with HCDD.
Afternoon, John Wilson, Transportation Manager, DID.
Perfect. All right, you all can take it from here.
We are here this evening to present an ordinance for Tony Tank, and this issue first risen when, it predated myself, so it fell in the lap of Rachel, so she wanted to see it to the finish line, so I'll let her go ahead and take it.
Okay, yeah. Kind of holding your hand. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that was, yeah.
That was slick, right?
Wish I could do that.
So basically, I heard from residents in the neighborhood that they did not like that the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. They felt like that was too high. They were noticing a lot of speeding in their neighborhood. They noticed a lot of other communities around town, a lot of other neighborhoods similar to theirs have 25 miles per hour speed limit. And so they wanted theirs lowered to 25 miles per hour.
Yep. Yeah, so pretty much all the neighborhoods pretty much should be 25, and we're making this reflect everything else.
Good.
And-
Question, go ahead. Who had it?
It falls in line with DID's Vision Zero.
Good.
To reduce speed limits, it increases reaction time and all of that, so.
Okay. Question for you. It goes along this line, and since I have you right here, I've received a couple complaints near my neighborhood. One with the speed limit. I know there was a digital meter that read the speed limit that was there for a little while. It works, but so
Even in stealth mode, it works.
Yes,
Even if-
yes, yes.
If it don't tell you it's working.
but I have a roundabout, and then it goes to my street, and cars park along the corner of the street, and it makes it really difficult to see. Is there anything that we have on the books or anything that we can enact? Because I've received several complaints in my neighborhood that cars can't see coming out of the roundabout to go into the street, and you can't see. You have to kind of gauge and watch, and it's really unsafe.
Are the cars parking as closer to the corners and whatnot?
They're parked really close, so it's roundabout street. They're parking really close to that corner where the roundabout starts.
All right,
Where the
because-
street starts, sorry.
All right, so they should be at least 20 feet back. I'm not sure exactly which street that we are referring
We'll
to.
communicate afterwards.
If we have posted the radar sign out in the area,
Yeah.
we do have data on it, and pretty much if it falls within the 85th percentile, pretty much, if the 85th percentile is not having issues, pretty much we do not warrant an issue. If
Okay.
it is beyond 15%, that is what will warrant an issue.
So you said you have data on that?
I'm not sure.
We'll just
but-
exclude my, no, I'm kidding. Well, so we'll communicate after, because again, that's something that, again, people have been commenting on, but.
No problem.
So we'll email and we'll talk about that afterwards. But council, any questions, comments on this?
None.
Good? And we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Thank you for taking that need and passing it on and passing it back, and we appreciate that partnership there, so. Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course, of course. All right. We'll move forward to the budget amendment for the water treatment plant filter replacement project. We have the Superintendent Ron Clapper and Assistant Superintendent Jeff Lambert. Good afternoon, fellas.
Good evening. How are
Or
you?
evening, yes, actually, yeah.
Evening, afternoon.
You can tilt that down that way we can hear you a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, so we found a surplus of money in our chemical account because we had a caustic soda was a lot less for the fiscal year, so we would like to transfer the funds to the filter project for PFAS treatment.
Yes.
Yes,
I think that's a very,
yes, yes.
So essentially, to go in a little more detail, we had contracted GHD to provide the design for the original filter project. But as things have evolved and the PFAS regulations have come in, we've now had to incorporate that proposal into this, so there's a significant increase to the design. So instead of going to surplus and looking for funding, luckily we were able to find it in our house. So this is just allowing us to have enough funding on hand to continue with the design and the change order that will be forthcoming.
well,
Fantastic.
we appreciate any surplus, but moving into the project like this was definitely smart. You heard, any questions, comments?
None.
Consensus to move this forward?
Absolutely.
Yes, all right, thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
All right, we'll move forward to revisions to the Human Rights Advisory Committee bylaws. We have Susie Peterson, Vice Chair, and along with our Executive Administrative Assistant, Jesse Turner. Good evening.
Evening. Hello, Council. Yep, Jesse Turner, Mayor's Office, Staff Liaison for the Human Rights Advisory Committee. And like Deshaun said, with me this evening is our Vice Chair, Susie Peterson, and I'm going to let her take it from here.
At the February 7th, 2024 meeting of the Human Rights Advisory Committee, the committee sorry, that's one word I just don't.
Unanimously,
They all
yeah.
agreed.
Yes.
We all agreed.
Agreed.
To amend the committee's bylaws, and is recommending that the mayor approve these amendments and send them to the city council for adoption.
Can you just go over just so that the public is hearing this, go over the amendments?
Sure. So the first proposed amendment is Section 1A, membership, to remove the requirement for membership to include at least 2 representatives of racial or national minorities, at least 2 representatives from the LGBTQ plus community, and at least 1 youth representative aged 16 to 24 years, and at least 2 members of local religious organizations. It's proven impractical to have these requirements for membership. The board and commission application does not ask applicants to identify their race, gender, religion, or any type of demographical information. Committee wholeheartedly feels that the membership can be representative of Salisbury's diverse population without required representation from these specific 5 categories. Secondly, the committee proposes that Section 1E, membership, change the allowance of unexcused absences from 3 to 2. Having a quorum for the committee has been quite a challenge this past year. In the calendar year of 2023, the committee was unable to meet the number of times required by its bylaws due to lack of attendance. The committee is required to meet at least 6 times per year, and we're choosing to take 2 months off. Changing the number of allowed absences would require that members be present at 8 out of 10 meetings per year, except, of course, with pre-excused absences or emergencies. After 2 unexcused absences, the removal of the member would be considered. So you'll find the copy of the Resolution 2653, which established the Human Rights Advisory Committee, and the original bylaws. Resolution 3075, which amended the committee's bylaws in 2020, and also a resolution which includes the proposed amendments. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you for that explanation, and I, as a former member of HRAC, I appreciate you all's leadership. I've heard good things since I had to leave, since I sit on this side now, but you all are doing good work, and thank you for your leadership, and I think those are some good changes to make sure, and I trust that you all will make sure that Salisbury is still represented well on HRAC. So I look forward to the work you'll continue to do and advise our mayor on. Any questions or comments from me?
Just thank
council?
you. Thank you, well done. Thank you, well put in.
Mr.
President, real quick, how many members do you have now on the board?
We currently have 7. We have 13 spots. We have 7 members right now.
Okay.
6 vacancies.
Okay, six vacancies. So 13 total is what you're supposed to be carrying. Okay.
And Ms. Turner, can you, since we have, and we just explained that to the public, can you explain how persons can apply to be on HRAC?
Yep, you can apply to be on the Human Rights Advisory Committee on the city website under Boards and Commissions. I think way down at the bottom it says apply to join. It's basically an online application with a required attached resume. And then that comes to me. I send that to the mayor, and he gives his X or his check. And, because they are advisory committees to the mayor, that's why it goes to him first, and then it comes for council to confirm that appointment at a regularly, scheduled council meeting.
Yes, thank you for
So
that.
it's about a month-long process.
Yeah, we look forward to filling those vacancies. Council, we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes, all right, thank you, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, we'll call up Finance Director Keith Cordry for a budget amendment to correct ordinance number 2865. Good evening.
Good evening. Ordinance 2875 before you today corrects Ordinance 2865, previously passed by this council. The purpose of Ordinance 2865 was to move up projects planned to be appropriated in the FY25 budget initially, but we moved them up in order to consolidate bond issues and save bond issuance expense. This consolidation avoids redundant issuance costs for FY23 and FY25 by having one issue in the 3 fiscal years. So incorrect projects for the water sewer fund were inadvertently included in Ordinance 2865 when they were copied from a worksheet. Therefore, Section 2 of this ordinance reverses the appropriations incorrectly assigned by 2865. Those are in the water sewer fund. And Section 3 inserts the correct projects intended to be brought in by Ordinance 2865. Council may recall, these are the projects that we discussed in our most recent
Yes,
budget session.
we recall.
We recall.
Clearly, yeah.
So
Thank you.
it continues.
City Administrator recalls as well. Yeah, we.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting this. Council, any comments? No.
No.
All right, we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Cordry. Yes.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, we'll move forward to our last item on the work session, council discussion, city policy on flying flags. We'll start with first, so again, this is a council discussion, but if we want to start with you, Ms. Ashley Boucher, just about the legalities and the legalese of it all.
Sure. So broadly speaking, the First Amendment restrains the government from restricting other speech. It doesn't actually apply to the government's own speech. Government entities like cities of our own can generally say what they want. They can advocate for favored policies, taking positions, promoting some views, but not the others. So in short, cities, counties, government entities may select and designate specific flags to fly on government-owned flagpoles rather than, say, opening up to the public, for the public to raise their flags of their choice. In the former case, so when the government speaks for its own self, there are no First Amendment implications. If the government is speaking or making decisions about somebody else's speech, then that obviously raises First Amendment implications. So there can be an issue in terms of like a First Amendment analysis. Very recently, there was a Supreme Court decision in 2022 which illustrates that flags are sometimes government speech, and prohibiting citizens from raising their own flags can be viewpoint discrimination. So in short, as long, I guess the bottom line rule, and for you to decide whether we want to have a policy or not, when the government does not speak for itself and excludes speech based upon viewpoint, that is potentially a First Amendment violation and discrimination, okay? So but when the government speaks as its own self, it can say whatever it would like to say or not to say. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the government cannot restrict somebody else's speech.
Right.
The government, however, can say whatever it wants or not say whatever it wants.
Okay. Does that make sense to council?
I'm trying.
You want to give an example?
Yeah.
So if the government decides.
I'd like to phone a friend.
Okay, so if the government decides that it only wants to fly the American flag, the county flag, and the city flag, and not open it up to the public to flag any other flags, that is okay. If the government, however, wants to, have a policy where it opens its flagpoles to have the public raise other flags, and then it does not allow that, or allows it in some instances and not the others, then that could be a First Amendment violation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So basically, if you make a decision to fly the flags, then, and we leave it at that, okay. If you open it up for the public to fly, then you cannot select and choose which flag we're gonna fly.
Gotcha.
Thank you for explaining that and then clearing it up. I think, of course, we saw a real life example of this, this here recently. And I think, one, it has a way of setting a message and of course, hurting people. And so that's where I said, well, let's see do we have a policy? No. Okay, well, we need to have something on the books so that we're representing our city well and our people. And so that the ambiguity, which, if we do one, we have to do all, that frightens me a little bit, because I don't want us to represent anything that we're not a forward-thinking, inclusive, that we speak for everyone here. So that I want us to, if council wants to entertain having a written policy or written something that protects its people on, raising flags or anything like that, I want us to be mindful that we want to make sure that we are speaking for a forward-thinking city, an inclusive city. And so that's where I lean on you all to be a part of this discussion, and as to how we move forward and how we make sure we're representing our people in our city.
So my question was, especially when we discussed this, was, is there a way to put a permitting policy in place? We permit things like parades and events, that sort of thing. Is that something that we could put in place for something like this? And if not necessarily the flags the flagpoles here at the government building, but something at Unity Square, because there's something going on every month. There's Wycomico Goes Purple. There are so many events that go on in our community, things that we would like to support and promote and that sort of thing. Is that something we could look at as well? moving forward. But as far as a permitting policy for using a flagpole, whether it is the one here at the government office building or it is at Unity Square or any other location in the city, is that something we could look into doing?
I thought you had.
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
It's an open-ended question. I think there is flagpoles, and then there is assets, however we want to talk about it. We actually have areas to hang banners on our street poles downtown. We've been approached for a long time by different organizations who've asked to use city property or assets to help support or bring awareness to a cause. So I think if that's an opportunity, there is a permitting process to allow us to understand what they want to do and the intent and for how long, so we can kind of have a box around it so we understand what is going on. So, or that's a permitting process, yeah. Where and how it's done, I think that's where you decide what you would permit versus not permit. Is it a month? Is it a week? Is it a day? Is it this amount of space? That's what you would then decide how to put a box around. And then within that, you'd also decide kind of what's off limits or not off limits. So, I think one of the ones that comes to my mind all the time, you see the pinwheels that are up in the city park, pinwheels for protection. We've changed lights out for Waikamaku goes purple. We've done some different things with streamers and some things on the old plaza. We have the all welcome, all are equal here banners that are going up on the flag, on the light poles this month. So we've got a few different things that have happened in the past, but putting some boundaries around that, I think a permitting process so we can understand and who's doing what, is it us, is it them, and what's the timeline. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's coming out of this is that we need to have some sort of structure in place for this. And, like you said, we do there's the pinwheels in the park, there's the fountain gets, colored lights for different things. And like you said, whether it's us or a group doing that, I think we need to have some sort of structure in place. And if having it out in, like I said, having out in front of the government office building, because we do share the space with the county, and the county may not want to share that with, with us, and having a permitting process and them not being a part of that process. So if we want to put up something for that purpose in Unity Square, I think that would be an ideal location for that. But if nothing else, we need to get a process in place so situations like this don't come up again. Because this was incredibly disappointing this past week. And I know there are a lot of people who are going to want to make public comment on this, but me personally, I think it was a very sad decision for the city to make. I don't think it was a wise decision for the city to make. I think that supporting and uplifting marginalized communities in our city is something that we always need to consider doing and following through on, especially since this would have been the 5th year. But, moving forward, I don't want to see this happen again. I want to see us have something in place.
So this, I think I lean to Ashley and you, Andy. What is this, kind of big picture? What does this look like for a process or permit? Like, where does the buck stop?
Well, we had a meeting this week with ABC, and just so we could kind of get on the same page relative to a lot of these topics. And I agree, we need a policy, and I think we're gonna draft something up. I think one of the things that's really important to point out here, and I talked to Mark, and was that I reached out to the county and at the council level and the administrative level, and they did not want to continue. So it kind of left us in a spot, and I wasn't realizing that it was a 30-day, we were that close. I didn't realize we were that close. Otherwise, I would have come out early because we'd had these conversations earlier. But it sounds like it had a good result. I mean, I think that, just as a marketing thing, I mean, the car count at the Carroll Street location is far better than it is North Division. It turned out to be a really good site. You have good visibility there. So it was a good secondary solution to the problem. So, in any of that, I think we do need a policy, and I think it does need to take on some form of fairness and a process, for sure.
Could we put, so I know other cities do this, could we put a provision that, certain, it would pass through council as well? Do you think we can entertain that, or no? Like, so part of these processes would come through council for, like, approval of a certain number of council or do we have to talk about that offline?
From a legal standpoint,
Yes.
you can do whatever you want, provided you're not making decisions based upon
Sure.
viewpoint.
So,
Viewpoint? Yeah.
Correct.
Can I ask a question then?
Yes.
Because I've heard, and Ms. Boucher, you may need to help me guide me with this, but I heard that there was like First Amendment rights, this, that, and the other, but the city can choose or not to choose the flag. Okay, that's fine. But I want to ask a question, because this question also involves like First Amendment right. And I don't know how neutral it is, but every executive session that the city council has, we pray. And that's a stance that we take. Now, I'm a Christian, and I'm not against the prayer, but I know some colleagues and my deep friends aren't Christians. So I don't know how that's a neutral stance. I don't know how, I'm not saying take the prayer away. I don't know but how do we say we're being neutral, but then we're using the same exact thing about First Amendment rights and in our city government meetings with the public, who we're supposed to be inclusivity and embrace everybody. It's a little confusing to me how we can do one message every other week and then not another message for 1 month. So I think it's a broader conversation. It's not the first time I think someone's brought this up between the separation of church and state and, praying at, government meetings and this, that, or the other. But I think it deepens the conversation and the context of the purpose and meaning of what's happening or not happening in our city government.
Okay, so in terms of, I think you raised some ethical, moral questions. Legally speaking, the First Amendment applies when the government infringes upon somebody else's speech. The First Amendment does not apply to the government's own speech. So the government can say whatever it wants to say. In this case, going to the 2022 Supreme Court decision, it's interesting because there the flag that the group wanted to fly was a Christian flag. It was the city of Boston, and they denied the application to fly the Christian, what they called the Christian flag, on the basis that they thought it violated the Establishment Clause, which you referenced as a separation of church and state. And the Supreme Court in this case said that the city's flag raising program did not express government speech, because there it was basically opening up their flagpoles to the public, and the public could just, it was really a cursory type of process, and the government granted everyone's exception, but for this one on the basis of the Establishment Clause. And the Supreme Court said that the city's refusal to allow the organization to fly their Christian flag amounted to impermissible discrimination based upon religious viewpoint, and that was a violation of First Amendment rights. So I think the lesson to be learned is the government can do whatever it wants. That's from a legal standpoint. Ethically, morally, philosophically, those are decisions that I think you need to make. Where, from my standpoint, my concern from a legal is when you infringe upon the public's right of speech. So at this juncture, that's where the policy would come in. If you allow someone to speak, or is the city the one putting up the speech? If so, there could potentially be no issues. But if you allow a permitting for a group to, for instance, they want to paint the town purple, okay? If they're doing that, if we say no, are we now discriminating against them? So that's where the policies come into play. So I know it's like I'm splitting hairs here, but the issue is when what the public is speaking, not when the government is speaking. Because the government can,
Yeah, so I was just,
can do
you're
whatever it
exactly
wants to
right.
do,
And
yeah.
again, I want to use the word neutral, being neutral. I don't know how the city council or the city government can say that it's, the position of not raising the pride flag is taking a neutral position when in the same hand, in the very same hand, not even on the other hand, in the very same hand, we do open up for prayer every other week for, and again, I just preface that I'm a Christian. I don't mind having the prayer, but I also know that other people are not comfortable with that. So just because other people aren't comfortable with it doesn't necessarily mean I want to take it away. Just because people aren't comfortable with the pride flag doesn't mean we should take it away. So that's just my point. That's all I need to say. And I do think that we need to reflect on a policy and kind of hash out a little bit more what the city really wants to say to the citizens.
I think that's the question.
Moving
that
forward.
The city is an entity, so who is speaking for the city? And I think you guys need to decide what you want the city to say.
So give me 1 second. So, if you can, well, it sounds like you've already started the conversation on policy or procedure, or, okay, but I want council to have a say in that and to have some way into the actual implementation and to the yeses. I don't want the buck to just stop at one point. So I think it would be prudent for council to have some say into that as well, just to make sure that we are an inclusive city and that we have more voices that are at the table. Okay. You have a question or comment? Okay.
One thing.
Yes, I want to get to these. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
President Dowdy, just remember, the city council sets the agenda. So when we set our agenda for the prayer, that comes from the council. So that's something else we need to look at that is separate than administration. Is that not true?
I was speaking about the policy on the actual agenda item, the city policy on flying flags and those things.
Okay, but just remember that the city council all sets the agenda. But yeah, okay, thank you.
Is it referring to the invocation?
That's fine.
I want to make sure you, is that?
I am.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay. I guess we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Cool. All right. We have plenty of comments. Again, you all have 3 minutes, correct? 3 minutes to speak. You are permitted, again, we want to hear from everyone, but if someone said your comment, you're permitted to come up and say, I agree with said person. We'll start with Dr. Nicole Hollywood.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Taylor. My name is Nicole Hollywood. I'm a member of the Maryland Commission for LGBTQA+ Affairs, to which the governor and Maryland General Assembly appointed me. I am also a board member of PFLAG Salisbury and a resident of Salisbury. I'm here to address the importance of civic and cultural events such as community celebrations, organized volunteerism, festivals, flag raisings, and art events for fostering civic participation, bringing people together, building social connections, and strengthening community identity and cohesion. The city of Salisbury has a rich history of hosting cultural events organized by community groups such as Juneteenth, the Folk Festival, Haitian Flag Day, and Salisbury Pride. These events shine a spotlight on our beloved city and are not just about diversity and inclusion, but are a testament to our commitment to those values and a source of inspiration for many. People often ask why Pride Month is still needed, and to some people outside of the LGBTQIA+ community, it can look like Pride isn't necessary anymore. But there are many reasons why Pride Month is so crucial, and it is best exemplified by why we are currently debating whether a city can show support for a community. Because it may offend people who hold outdated viewpoints that exist to marginalize others. Pride Month is about acceptance and equality, celebrating the work of LGBTQIA+ people and raising awareness of issues and disparities that persist. Pride events send a potent message that all community members are valued and deserve to be celebrated. Most importantly, it tells young people who may be struggling that they are respected. Research has shown that Pride events help connect members of the LGBTQI+ population to others and to support within the community, which has been found in the research to help reduce feelings of isolation and suicidal behaviors. Further, Pride events have been found in the research to help counter marginalization by making society more accepting of the LGBTQI+ population. At PFLAG Salisbury, we are proud to have responded to an Arts and Entertainment District public request for proposals initiated by the city back in 2018 that enabled us to make history and establish the first rainbow crosswalk in the state of Maryland. Installed by Salisbury PFLAG volunteers with donated paint and materials, it has served as a beacon of hope for many. It has also been repainted annually by PFLAG volunteers at no cost to taxpayers. As a powerful piece of public art, we hope to see the Crosswalk Initiative expanded with other cultural groups coming forward with similar proposals. Diversity is simply one of our most significant community assets. Civic and cultural events must not be just protected, but expanded. PFLAG Salisbury is not making any demands, but we believe the intent of city officials is and should be to serve their constituents. Our ask is simple. We'd like to see a structure put in place moving forward to vet fairly and systematically all requests for flag raisings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Delancey. Mark Delancey.
My time's up already? Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Delancey, Executive Director, Salisbury PFLAG, a proud LGBTQ member of this community. I've been debating on exactly how I want this to go tonight, and one of the things that I wanted to make sure was to let everyone know, not only am I a proud member of this community, I am a disabled veteran, 61 years old, and I am proud of where I've gone in my life. I've acquired some wisdom in which I feel creates an atmosphere not only of leadership, but also in an area in which I can see both sides of the coin. Mayor, when we had our conversation for 5 minutes, I appreciated it very much. Thank you. I look forward to more conversations. And when I say I understand your decision, please don't take my understanding for approval. In that decision of doing that, I understand the neutrality. I understand of making sure how that neutrality needs to be portrayed to the community. In that portrayal, it is common and oftenly familiar to me of the same situation that we were dealing with Reverend Graham. In that decision, again, we are reevaluating and reanalyzing the situation of how those values look and how those standards need to be applied and how those things need to be, protocols need to be put in place. Again, while I agree with those, I want to make sure that, like the president said, that the buck stops here. Thank you. The buck does stop at the council, but the conversation starts with us, the minorities, the community that involved in these decisions. I don't want to feel like we are left as an afterthought. I don't want to feel like we are discarded and placated to because of who we are. I want to make sure we are all involved in that conversation of what that looks like and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rosie Bean.
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor Taylor. My name is Rosie Bean. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQIA community, and I'm a board member of Salisbury PFLAG. I have seen firsthand the positive impact that cultural events can have in our community. These events not only bring people together, build social connection, but also serve as a tool for promoting inclusivity and celebrating diversity. It is essential that we continue to support and expand these events as they play a crucial role in countering countering marginalized communities. By supporting these initiatives, such as raising cultural flags, by hosting Pride celebration, we are sending a powerful message of solidarity and inclusivity to the community. In order to ensure a fair and a transparent process for approving permit requests for these events, it is important to establish a formal system to review. This will help streamline the process and make it more accessible to all community members. I am confident that we can work together. We can make our community even stronger and more vibrant. And I would like to say, personally, I've been hate crime for putting my own flag up in my apartment building, and I look forward to June when I can see the city flag, displaying the pride flag, because I personally cannot. And I look forward to it, that my city can lift up my voice and other voices in the community. Thank you, and have a good one.
Lori McLean.
Hello, I'm Lori McLean. I'm a resident of Salisbury, and I'm also a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community. I think that a lot of what I wanted to say and what I wrote down, it will be said by other people. So I would like to offer a different perspective. I'm a mother, and I have a child. I have a 10-year-old child. And something I have learned throughout my 31 years of life is that the only way to fight hate is with love. It's the only way with openness, with kindness, and acceptance. It's the only way to fight hate. Being neutral actually creates more division than it creates more division than anything. And with everything I do in life, I lead with love. And it has never steered me wrong. So, and also in my experience, what I've learned is that what we do today affects the generations of tomorrow. And something I do is lead by example with my son, so that I raise him to lead with love and to be open and to lead with acceptance and kindness. So what I'm asking is that this council and Mayor Randy Taylor lead by example, lead with love. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Blackwater, a resident of Salisbury, owner of Blackwater Apothecary, and co-founder of the Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance. I did want to take a moment. I'm so happy to see that we're starting this dialogue about how to fix things, but I want to kind of steer it back to the decision that was made itself, because I think it's incredibly important to talk about the purposeful and specific choice that was made to refuse to put up the pride flag, and the mayor's stance that this decision was meant to be a choice made based on neutrality. For years, this flag has been flown without incident, proudly showing that our city is one of inclusiveness and acceptance. Purposefully refusing that flag sends a message that our city bows to intolerance and injustice. Please understand that you are choosing the neutral ground between inequality and equality. I cannot believe you are choosing the middle ground on good faith, because who would choose neutrality over equality? I understand we are considering creating a committee to make these decisions to ensure proper use of city assets. It is absurd we need a group of people to decide on equality, thus even more city assets being used to figure this out. How hard is it to choose equality? When does neutrality end? What does city assets actually mean? Are we just talking about the flagpole, or does city assets also include the streets and sidewalks as well? Does this same neutrality apply to the multitudes of cultural events that are held throughout the year? The refusal of the flag was a simple choice, one you made because it is an easy target. And then, when faced with the repercussions, you took a cowardly stance of neutrality, as if none of us knew exactly what you meant. People of the council, please know now is your time to step up. If you allow the continuation of unchecked power, what is next? This is only the beginning. Now you have the power to make things right. You cannot sweep this under the rug and hope that these problems end. This is just a small test of the bindings which hold our mayor accountable. Will you undo those binds and allow further injustices? Or will you pull them tighter to serve and protect your community? We must remember, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In this historical moment, do you wish for your names to be forgotten and to only be remembered for your cowardice and shame? Or would you rather your names be remembered for standing up for what is right? The choice is yours now to nip this in the bud. If you do not take care of this now, we will be here again and again discussing the very same injustices, not only in regards to this flag, but the many systemic issues this city is steeped in. You have the power to fix that now, and I hope that you will consider it. And if you so choose not to rectify this, please remember that choice is one you each have to live with. May you be greeted in kind with the life you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Lingford.
He left, I think.
Okay. We're sure of that. Okay. Robert Taylor.
Hello again, still a Salisbury resident. I was trying to think, it was either 56 or 57 years ago that I took and actually passed a class in constitutional law. Main thing I remember is that the professor was a chain smoker. But I have kept up with it. And my view is going to be a little bit different. It's going to focus on the legal matters that Ashley got into. And just tell you right off the top, my personal view is that there should be no other than strict governmental speech shown on our flagpoles. And I'm going to distinguish flagpoles from streets and parks and other things because there is a difference. The Supreme Court, the case she mentioned, which involves the city of Boston, they looked at it as if flagpoles are quintessential governmental speech. It's at a public property, and it normally has flags of the United States, the state, the locality. Now, in that particular case, to get into the weeds a bit, the city of Boston had allowed almost anyone to fly the flag, including the pride flag. Then they came along with this, quote, Christian flag. It wasn't a standard Christian flag. It was kind of an oddball flag. And that was the first time in 283 applications they had ever turned it down. So this case kind of epitomizes what you get into if you open the door to this. Because I'll come in and say, well, look, I had a relative, great-grandfather, who was a fairly prominent Confederate soldier. If you do your history, you might see his name. I'd like to have the Sons of Confederacy flag flying there. Or somebody else could come in and say, well, how about the cannabis flag? They don't have one yet, they sure will in the future, and they're going to want to put that up. So if you open the door, that's what you get into. And if you do it where you decide on it as a council, then you get in, as she mentioned, to the discrimination, issue of viewpoint discrimination. So to my way of thinking, the best thing to do is just don't do any, with the possible exception of something like the PIA missing in action flag, where people have served the government and are being honored for that. But that would be about the limit that I could see. And let's face it, I have the right to put up the cannabis flag on my yard if I want to, or on my car, and they do too. So there are plenty of opportunities for them to fly their flag, just like me. We don't need to do it on city flagpoles in particular. Now, streets and parks, I don't know. I mean, that is a little different from flagpoles. But I think even there should be some limit to this. But anyway, we're talking basically flags and flagpoles tonight, and that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Miller.
Good evening, folks. My name is Alicia Miller. I'm a resident of the city of Salisbury. I'm a queer person, and professionally, I'm a certified health education specialist, and I work specifically with teenagers. LGBTQ+ youth and young allies are very civically engaged and motivated, and they are paying attention, locally and nationally. Symbols like the pride flag, our light post banners, which I was very happy to see as I drove into Salisbury this evening, and our crosswalk are really important to them. Our city leaders have an opportunity to show our young people that they are welcomed and loved in Salisbury. I encourage you to use your positions of power to show our young people of all identities that they belong here. Thank you.
Thank you.